Good morning, guys. Welcome to my unboxing review of the Master Grade Gundam Stormbringer PF. This is a premium Bandai exclusive release from last year, 2024, that I got for $77 on Premium Bandai. So this kit is a bit of a, it has a bit of a pedigree. So this kit is based on a kit that's 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 based on a kit. Yes, that's five like kits back that you can trace this kit's kind of lineage from. So this kit, the Stormbringer PF, which I believe stands for Phantom Fang, is based on the Stormbringer FA, or I think full armor, which is in turn based on the standard Stormbringer. So all of the Stormbringers I mentioned previously were premium Bandai exclusive, and the base Stormbringer was based on the Gym Dominance, which is also a P Bandai exclusive. Now that Gym Dominance was based on the Master Grade Gym Sniper 2, which was a standard release, and that kit in turn was based on 2008's Master Grade ARC-78-2 2.0. So yeah, this kit has quite the lineage to it. Now, from what I can tell, this kit modifies the Stormbringer FA with a bunch of new armor parts, in addition to including a new weapon, this rather large Gatling gun you see mounted on the left arm there. And of course, this will also include a Gym head to recreate the Gym Turbulence instead of the Gundam Stormbringer if you want. I'm probably going to display it as the Gym Turbulence. As far as I can tell, unlike the other variants of the Stormbringer, where the Gym Turbulence also involved a bunch of parts swapping to create the two different versions, in this case it's only swapping the head to make the Gym Turbulence, but we'll see when we get into it. As you can see, this is a very kind of typical premium Bandai style box in this monochrome gray, showing off the art of both the Gundam Stormbringer itself and the Gym Turbulence, just kind of in an all-out firing pose here. Not really much to say on the box. The rest of it is just kind of very simplified, not many details at all, what you would expect from a typical P Bandai release. So let's get right into it. So inside the box we get 14 bags of runners, as well as this Stormbringer PF manual, which is kind of in a almost typical Master Grade style. It's in color, which is of course a good start. A lot of P Bandai stuff is in black and white. Of course, you're going to have a nice decal guide on the back with this full kind of painted build for the Gundam Stormbringer. I assume the decals for the Gym Turbulence are going to be the same. So getting into the manual, it looks like we are going to have quite a few extra parts here. As you can see, there are a lot of runners in this box, going to be from a myriad of different kits. And of course, unfortunately, we're going to have duplicate labeled runners, which is a little annoying, but again, they are distinct enough, both in terms of size and color, that it shouldn't be too much of a pain to kind of differentiate the two. Of course, here it is going to show off the kind of assembly order here. It's going to be very typical, starting with the chest and the head, and arms, waist, legs, and then moving on to kind of the backpack and weapons. Yeah, and it looks like this is going to be the main kind of accessory addition to the PF, this minigun turret that can also be mounted on the arm. So it looks like besides that, it's going to be a pretty typical Master Grade build. Yes, it looks like it's going to be a pretty typical Master Grade build. And then on the back here is just showing off some of the accessories, mounting the minigun turret, showing off using the Beam Saber effect parts either with the Beam Saber handles and the back skirt in the Gem Sniper 2 style, or mounted into the forearms in a kind of Beam Tonfa style. And it's just kind of showing that when you want to use the rocket cannon custom, you just have to extend it up and out to pose it like it's firing, and then of course talking about the action base adapter. So getting into the contents of these bags. So inside the bags we get 32 runners, which is a very large amount of runners, but of course a lot of these are going to contain parts that we aren't going to use, because of course a lot of these runners, being a Build Fighters kit, a lot of these runners are sourced from pre-existing kits, namely the Master Grade ARC-78-2 2.0, the Gym Sniper 2, the Gym Dominance, and any previous versions of the Stormbringer. Of course, in addition to these runners, we also get this small foil color correcting sticker sheet. This is about what you would expect in a Master Grade. Pretty much all of these are metallic color correcting details for things like eyes and cameras. Of course, there's a single white color correcting detail sticker here. I am not sure exactly what this is for, but I'm probably just going to end up painting it in white because it seems simple enough to do. And then of course you are going to get this, all things considered, quite small water slide decal sheet. Again, especially compared to the last video I did on the V2 Assault Buster, oh my god, that had a lot of decals. This is comparatively a much smaller sheet that shouldn't take all that long to apply. Of course, the largest decals here are the very unfortunately named V cards. I know that Japan really likes to throw kind of English words and things to sound cool, but I'm surprised that no one Googled what V cards were in English before associating it with like a character in their mobile suit or whatever. I don't think they want to proudly display their V card on their mobile suit, but I'm gonna put it on it. Like, name aside, it's a cool logo, so that'll go in the kit. And of course, getting to the runners themselves. So getting into the runners now, these runners were printed in July of 2024, starting with the kind of generic runners that don't really belong to any kit, starting with PC7 here for a set of polycap ball joints. Again, using parts from the Gym Sniper 2 and Gym Dominance and all that, which was based on the ARC 78-2 2.0 from 2008, it is going to be using polycaps, although the polycap usage on that kit isn't too bad, as you saw in my reviews of the Gym Sniper 2 White Dingo team, as well as the full armor Gundam blue color version. The polycaps are fairly minimal, and they don't really get in the way all that much, including PC202, the original kind of set of polycaps that was from the ARC 78 to 2.0 from 2008. A lot of these are just going to be various kind of joint connection parts in things like the feet, the shoulders, and the waist. For your hand options, of course, these are going to be swappable finger style hands, quite nice. Going to be using runner MP. For a set of generic hands, including standard holding hands, closed fists, open expressive hands, and trigger finger hands. These were created, I don't know if it's specifically for it, but for the Master Grade Age 1 Normal, alongside runners MP2 and MP3, as you saw in my Age 1 wear system set. So these do the job quite nicely, and it's nice to see them here. And for beam effect parts, we are going to have runner SB1 for a standard set of beam saber effect parts in 1/100 scale, but in this very kind of extremely dark blue, almost black color. This is a super unique beam saber effect color. I don't think I've ever seen this color on another kit, so it's going to be interesting to see how this looks on the kit. So of course I'm going to be getting into the remaining runners based on the kit of origin that they come from, starting with the Master Grade ARC 78-2 2.0. So from 2008's ARC 78-2 2.0, we have runner H here for a number of frame parts, including our action base adapter and frame parts for things like the waist. Runner I here going to be some additional frame parts, including including these inner details that are going to go on the arm frame that kind of extend out when you bend the arm to kind of give the illusion that there's a working inner frame inside the model. And then we have runner J, a very large runner consisting of many more frame parts, including very distinct parts here for the legs, for the thrusters on the feet, for the joints on the upper thigh that connects into the hips, alongside a number of piston details that go on the inside of the frame. So moving on now to runners from the Master Grade Gym Sniper 2 from 2017. Here is runner A here from the Master Grade Gym Sniper 2. Again, some very distinct parts. You see here the back skirt, parts for the front skirts. You have parts for the side skirts here. You have a number of different kind of thruster accents in yellow on top. Of course, this is going to be in a kind of dark gray. That is the main armor color for the Stormbringer PF. And then, of course, you're going to have a nice blue colored visor here for the Gym Turbulence head. Still from the Master Grade Gym Sniper 2 is going to be runner B here, and that same kind of main dark gray color for the armor, consisting of many parts for the torso and feet. Of course, you have like the front of the feet here, you have the bottoms of the feet, you have this kind of section that I believe is going to be the frame around which the kind of cockpit door goes, and then of course you have this large kind of back part of the torso. Runner C here, still from the Gym Sniper 2, going to have kind of the inner parts for the skirts. You have a seated pilot figure here, you have parts for the kind of, I believe this is the bottom of the torso that goes into the waist, the backs of the hands. I'm not sure how much of this we're going to use, especially the seated pilot figure. I'm not sure if it's going to be using the same pilot figure, if it's going to be using a unique one for the Stormbringer PF, but we'll see. I forgot to mention for runner C, but also for runners D2, which you get two of, these are going to be in a slightly lighter gray than the kind of main armor gray of some of the previous runners. So yeah, this is going to be using a almost real grade, like two-tone color scheme for the gray on this kit, which is going to be interesting to see. Runner D2 here, going to be a number of different armor parts here for things like the outside of the thigh where the joint going into the waist goes, things like the arms, the legs, and the feet. Runners E1 and E2 in this kind of almost extremely dark gray, almost black inner frame color for many more inner frame parts, including the inner frames for the back skirt, the kind of inside details for the gym head, the inner frame for the gym head, inner frame for the legs and arms, just in general many inner frame and detail parts. And the last runner from the Gym Sniper 2, runner F here, this very large runner for many inner frame parts for the legs, torso. We have a trigger finger here. Again, I'm not sure if we're actually going to use this when we have runner MP, but yeah, many more inner frame parts in gray. So moving on now to runners from the third kit in this kit's pedigree, the Gym Dominance. Starting with runners A1 and A2 from 2018's contains Master Grade Gem Dominance, A2 being a copy of this small bottom left section of A1. There's going to be a lot of armor parts in that slightly lighter gray that you saw with some of the Gem Sniper 2 parts. Again, this kit's going to go for a two-tone gray look, and we'll see how that looks. You have very distinct parts for the torso here, for the skirts, and you have the kind of shield here for the double barrel beam rifle. That's going to be this kit's main weapon. Runners B1 and B2 here, consisting of many more armor parts in that same kind of lighter gray color, including parts for the Gem Dominance's head, which I believe is what we're actually going to be using for the Gem Turbulence. You also have additional armor parts here in gray for the legs. You have the kind of inner frame, kind of in between frame and armor parts on the sides of the legs, and you have parts for the arms and like the collar for the torso. Runner C2 in a very dark gray, almost black color, going to be some more inner frame parts for things like the feet and the torso, in addition to including the main kind of body for the double barrel beam rifle. Runners D1 and D2, also including parts for the double barrel beam rifle and some more inner frame parts, D2 being in yellow for the double barrel beam rifle's scope here. And the final runner containing all the parts for the Stormbringer PF's main new weapon, the minigun/minigun turret, are actually from the Gem Dominance Philip Hughes custom, which I will be taking a look at. I did pre-order that kit coming this summer. I don't remember exactly which month. I think it's either July or August, but yeah, I'll be taking a look at that when that gets here. But yeah, this is going to be the main new weapon of this kit. Of course, a very large minigun, which can be mounted on its own separately as a turret. So moving on to kit number 4, or kit number 5 if you count the Philip Hughes custom Gem Dominance as a separate thing. Now runners from the standard Gundam Stormbringer. So runners M1 and M2 here, M2 being a copy of the right half of M1 from 2018's Gundam Stormbringer release. This is of course going to be in a lighter gray, parts for the kind of large thruster units on the back of the Gundam, as well as some additional armor parts and parts for the head for the Gundam Stormbringer itself. Runners N1 and N2 in the darker gray, seen in some of the Gem Sniper 2 parts for many armor parts, most recognizably from the torso, the back skirt, and the front skirts. And of course runner O here, a multicolored runner coming in 4 colors, some of the kind of darker gray for parts for the head crest, for the face, some parts for the feet, some parts in black for some inner frame detail for the torso, the back skirts, etc. Some yellow parts for some accent colors, including vent details, and then a plain clear part here for the face of the Stormbringer. So moving on to kit number 5 or 6, the Gundam Stormbringer FA. So only 2 runners from the Gundam Stormbringer FA, runners P1 and P2. P2 being a kind of separate section in a different color, P1 being in this very dark, pretty much black color for our backpack, including the 360mm custom rocket cannon, and parts, and runner P2 here for some additional armor/accent parts. You see what looks to be parts for an antenna here, as well as miscellaneous armor parts. And then finally, moving on to the only 2 new runners that come in this kit. Well, apart from the Philip Hughes Gem Dominance minigun parts. Runners Q1 and Q2 for the Stormbringer PF, these very large runners with all of our new molded armor details that are going to be replacing the old ones. Again, you have a lot of parts here. I believe these are parts for the legs, you have parts for the feet, parts for the torso, parts for the side skirts, a new head antenna. So yeah, all of these parts I'm kind of interested in seeing, including like parts for a new head crest here. So this is going to be a multicolored runner coming in 3 different colors. You have the dark gray that makes up the main kind of armor color of this kit. You have blue here for accents for the feet. You have white here for some additional armor parts, including for the side skirts. And then you have the kind of, again, 2-tone lighter gray parts here for things like the antenna and the crotch armor. So with all those runners out of the way, I will see you after the build. All right, so welcome back. Here's the Master Grade Gundam Stormbringer PF, snap built, panel lined, and yet there's a lot of panel lining opportunities on this kit. Decaled up and top coated using Mr. Hobby Premium Flat Top Coat. And this kit was not what I was expecting in terms of the build. In terms of appearance, yeah, this is exactly what you were expecting. This kind of over-the-top, kind of modernized take on the full armor Gundam in a different color scheme, in that kind of dark, more bluish gray. It just kind of looks like normal dark gray under my normal yellow room lighting, and a kind of lighter gray, giving this 2-tone, almost RG style appearance, especially coupled with all the surface details. But getting into the build, it is absolutely not what I was expecting. The size of the box, coupled with all of the runners inside, outside made me think this was going to be a very complex build, kind of similar to the other full armor kits, like the MSV Full Armor Gundam Blue that I took a look at on this channel. Outside of that, things like the Full Armor Thunderbolt Gundam Verka, the Exia Avalanche Dash, of course the V2 Assault Buster that I took a look at earlier this week. All of those kits had essentially 1.5 to 2 kits worth of parts in them. Basically, you built the kind of base Gundam and then you layered armor on top of it. That is not the case with this kit, especially with the exterior armor. Of course, the interior frame is going to be very similar to things like the Gym Dominance, the Gym Sniper 2, the RX-78-2 2.0, like a fully involved master grade frame. But the armor outside is very almost high grade like in terms of assembly. While it's involved in terms of parts count, especially with things like these thrusters in the legs and things like the shoulders, they're very simplified compared to what you would expect in a typical master grade. Like all of the extra bulk and armor that you see on this kit that looks like it's kind of bolted on, it's just kind of, there is no underlying kit underneath all of the armor. The armor is the kit, if that makes any sense. There isn't like a base kit that you layer the armor on top of. There isn't really kind of a standard Gundam underneath all this. The armor, like what you see is what you get in the box. Like there isn't really an option to display it as anything else. Of course, you can try and mount the other Gym Dominance parts and stuff like that, but at that point, why did you even get the Stormbringer? But yeah, the build is a lot simpler than I was expecting, and certainly something that makes me question the $77 price tag on this. For that price, you're expecting the standard 1.5 to 2 times standard part count inside of the box that you're actually going to be using in the construction of the kit, because that's very similar to the price of the Exia Avalanche Dash or the V2 Assault Buster. Is significantly more expensive than the Full Armor Gundam Blue. Like the only way I can think of that they're justifying the price, especially with the, I guess, relative simplicity of this kit, because in terms of overall complexity of construction, it's about the same as any other like kind of typical master grade. Like it's not that much more involved than the base kind of a Gym Sniper 2 that this kit uses as a base. And certainly it's probably not going to be much more in-depth than something like the Gym Dominance, which I'll take a look at in a couple of months when I get that kit. But yeah, the only way I can see them justifying the $77 price tag, again, this is before all the price hikes and stuff, is if they're charging you for the kind of extra plastic in the box that you're not using, because there are a lot of extra parts in the box. Like the only kind of full runners you're using, it's maybe about a third of what comes in the box. A lot of the leftover runners have like, of course, a few of them only have a couple of parts left over, but a lot of them have like half the runner or more left. That's a lot of excess waste plastic in the box. And if they're charging you for that to justify that $77 price tag, that's not something I can really get behind. And if that's the case, I can't really recommend this kit. But yeah, I'll leave further discussion of that in the conclusion. In summary, it's not much more complex than a standard master grade, and it was certainly a lot simpler than I expected. In terms of aesthetics, as you would expect from a master grade, this kit is mostly color accurate, of course outside of the color correcting stickers. I did do a tiny bit of painting on the Gym Turbulence head. As you can see here, the tip of the antenna I painted in white. Of course, this is just one solid piece in that kind of dark gray with like a hint of blue. That is the main armor tone of this kit. Of course, but besides that, the only real part that is not color accurate, you see this white piece on the stomach of the kit. This kind of center part here is supposed to be in dark gray. It is just one molded white piece on the runner. But outside of that, this kit is entirely color accurate. So yeah, that center kind of recessed part should be easy enough to paint in dark gray. I didn't realize it wasn't color accurate until after I top coated it and I took a look at the painted bill on the back. Probably should have done that beforehand, but I had a lot going on, my bad. But yeah, aesthetically, this kit is very interesting. This is, I think, what a lot of people kind of expect in their mind if they think of like a full armor Gundam. Of course, it maintains the general silhouette of the Gundam with a very kind of UC-like Gundam head here. Again, the quad antenna is a little over the top, but in general it's pretty archetypical of like a UC Gundam head design. Of course, you do have a lot of over the top outside of that, with these very large shoulders with the extra armor bolted onto the top, or at least in appearance, with these large kind of shock bars on the top, these very detailed over the top boosters on the legs, the highly varied geometry on that extra leg armor. Again, this kit gives the illusion that there is a base kind of, I guess, Gym Dominance body underneath this with all the armor bolted on, especially with these kind of forearm adapters and things like the thighs being relatively simple, leading into the highly developed and built on shins. But again, all of that, there is no kind of base kit underneath it. The armor is just kind of all this over the top stuff. That's just the base exterior. But yeah, you can definitely see the base Gym Sniper 2 / Gym Dominance underneath all of this kind of extra detail and stuff, especially with these extremely tall shoulder proportions, especially with things like the backs of the hands. The general arm proportions are, outside of the large forearm adapters, are pretty typical basic UC stuff. Of course, the back skirt, as this spins around, is literally the exact same one from the GM Sniper 2, with the same beam saber rack and everything. The silhouette is broken up a little bit by the large propellant tanks on the back. Very simple construction. It's literally two halves that snap together and a polycap ball joint at the end to stick into the backpack. Especially when it's loaded up with all of its equipment and weapons, it definitely kind of makes a callback to the standard full armor Gundam silhouette, especially with the large 360mm rocket cannon on the back and the double beam rifle that is this kit's main ranged weapon, which we'll take a look at in accessories. So yeah, it is a kind of is a more over-the-top, kind of modernized take on the MSV Full Armor Gundam, which is, I think, pretty interesting, especially since I really like that design, and it's definitely something that helps us stand out, although depending on I'm not actually sure what the price of the Fatal Ash is. If you kind of want a modernized version of the Full Armor Gundam, if the Fatal Ash is like significantly less expensive than this, because again, $77 for what you get in this box isn't super reasonable. I would definitely recommend getting that over this if you're just in it for that kind of modernized, over-the-top Full Armor Gundam aesthetic. In terms of the color correcting stickers, I did use almost all of them, except of course, sticker 1 here, this white color correcting sticker for the tip of the GM Turbulence head antenna that I showed off earlier. So getting into the other stickers, sticker 2 is going to, of course, be the eye camera stickers for the Gundam Stormbringer head in a very nice kind of metallic blue and black color. Sticker 3 is actually going to be the top head camera for the GM Sniper head. It's not really something you would expect a typical Gundam, a Gundam-style top head camera on a GM Sniper 2 head, but it is here. I don't know how well you can see that. It is a small trapezoid sticker on the top of the GM Sniper, or the GM Turbulence head in that same blue as the eyes for the Gundam. Oh, also something to note about the painting, I don't know how you can see that. I did paint underneath the very dark blue visor of the GM Turbulence head in chrome to help the details inside pop. It does pop when a light is directly shined on it, but the visor is so dark that outside of that it's kind of hard to make out what's underneath it. Stickers 4 and 5 are also going to be on the GM Turbulence head. These very small metallic blue square details on the side of the visor here. Sticker 6 is going to be on the Stormbringer's torso. You see this very small rectangle, this black rectangle with a blue metallic kind of smaller rectangle inside of it. That is sticker 6. Stickers 7 and 8 are going to be the head cameras on the Gundam Stormbringer head, one for the front and one for the back. Sticker 9 is going to be this very long trapezoidal metallic blue sticker in the top of the torso here. Also to note, in terms of like articulation and stuff, this kit doesn't, again, in resembling being more simpler than a master grade, this kit doesn't have a functioning cockpit hatch. There is a pilot figure in here. It's the same pilot figure as the GM Sniper 2, the generic kind of Earth Federation pilot figure, but the cockpit door can't open at all, and underneath is just a solid kind of fused piece that blocks off the pilot, and that this kind of torso piece and this white piece clip onto. So yeah, another kind of thing that makes it simpler than a typical master grade, at least in terms of gimmicks. Sticker 10 then is going to be this metallic yellow sticker here on the backpack for the kind of targeting sensor for the 360mm rocket cannon. And then stickers 10 and 11 are going to be these thin blue metallic stickers on the white part of the quad antenna. I don't know how you can see that, but they're there. So yeah, overall, apart from the white color correcting sticker of the GM Turbulence head, pretty typical sticker usage, mostly for metallic camera details, so yeah, not really something to hold against this kit. Now for a quick height comparison, here's the Master Grade Gundam Stormbringer PF next to a standard sized high grade being the High Grade Blue Destiny Unit 1, and a standard sized Master Grade being the Master Grade GM Sniper 2 White Dingo Team. As you can see, using the RX-78-2 2.0 frame and being heavily based on the GM Sniper 2 and GM Dominance, this kit is pretty much typical Master Grade size. Head height, it is going to be pretty much in line with the GM Sniper 2. So yeah, it's going to take up about a typical amount of Master Grade space on your shelf. Obviously, it's going to take more if you use the accessories like the kind of minigun turret, and it takes up a little bit more vertical space, especially with the 360mm rocket cannon when it's not in use. But yeah, just keep in mind it's going to take up about typical Master Grade space. In terms of accessories, here's the Master Grade Gundam Stormbringer PF alongside everything that comes with it. For the most part, this is a pretty typical accessory spread for like what you would expect with a full armor Gundam, with a couple of extras, as you can see here. Starting as usual with the hand options, this is going to be using swappable finger style hands, as you saw with runner MP1A. Of course, you get the standard closed fists that I have on the kit right now, in addition to, of course, a pair of standard holding hands for the left and right side for use with the beam sabers if you care to use those, a pair of open expressive hands, one for each side, and a pair of trigger fingers, one for each side. But you can use the double barrel beam rifle with either the left or the right side. You're pretty much always going to have it fused to the right hand, especially with how awkward this forearm adapter on the left arm looks without the minigun on it. Of course, you're going to get two standard 1/100 beam saber effect parts. These are, of course, in this extremely unique, super dark blue color. It looks black on camera, but if you like shine a light through it, it is a very, very dark blue. Again, this is an extremely unique beam saber effect color. I don't really think I've seen anything like this before on a master grade. Of course, you can use those with the two beam sabers mounted on the back skirt here. They are going to be identical to those seen on the Gym Sniper 2. So if you've watched my video on that, you'll know exactly what they look like. They kind of flare at the top similar to like a flashlight. So it's a slightly unique silhouette for the beam saber. But outside of those, you can also use them beam tonfa style with these two, with a hole in the kind of forearm extra armor piece. Of course, one on each side. So I'm going to be showing them off in those and not on the beam sabers because, again, you've seen like a million different beam sabers if you've built any Gunpla kits. These kind of beam tonfa-like effects, these beam tonfa-like mounting points are a bit more rare and something that I want to show off instead. Of course, you're going to have the main ranged weapon of the Gundam Stormbringer PF, the double barrel beam rifle. Of course, in very typical kind of full armor Gundam style. You have a pretty basic two-barrel setup with a integrated shield here. There is this kind of, I don't know what, I think this is supposed to be like some kind of melee, like physical melee weapon on the outside. I'm not exactly sure what this is, but it is a little bit of a blue accent on what would be typically a pretty kind of drab weapon. And of course, this mounts on the outside of the right forearm, and in the hand you just hold this here, which is presumably used for targeting. Again, this is a pretty basic part. Not really much to say here. And of course, the targeting scope that very much looks like that of the beam rifle for the ARC 78-2 can tilt left and right as necessary. And then you get the two kind of unique accessories for the Gundam Stormbringer. First off, you have the head for the Gym Turbulence here. This is pretty much this is almost entirely the same head as you would see on something like the Gym Dominance. Of course, it's been modified a bit to include this top head camera part with an auxiliary antenna here, and this kind of very large main antenna coming out the side. So this is the head I'm going to be using in the posing section. Again, I just have the Gundam Stormbringer head here for the rest of the video just so you can see what it looks like. But for posing, because that's how I'm going to have it on my shelf, I'm going to be using the Gym Turbulence head for the posing section. And then, of course, you get the main new accessory for the Gundam Stormbringer PF specifically, the minigun turret, like the Gatling gun turret. I don't remember exactly what the name for it was. This is the exact same turret that was included in the Gym Dominance Philip Hughes custom. It could be mounted on the tripod like so. There is no articulation here. The gun cannot rotate on the stand. The tripod legs can't fold up or anything. It's just like this. You just have it sitting on the ground. It can't really do much. When you want to mount it on the arm, you just detach it from the tripod. The kind of large drum magazine just folds up, and then you can attach it on the arm either with the barrel side pointed out when it's inert or pointed down when it's in use. Unfortunately, no actual mechanism to rotate it on the forearm itself, but again, a lot of gimmicks on this kit seem pretty simplified, especially compared to what you would expect on a typical master grade kit. So getting into articulation now, starting with the head as usual, you will get a look up of about that, which is quite far. Of course, it is going to be on a kind of double ball joint neck assembly here. When you want to look down, the entire neck can pop up a little bit to tilt down. Again, this is a kind of remnant of the Gym Sniper 2's torso, where the entire neck assembly could pop out like this to help it look down the scope of its sniper rifle, but here it just facilitates a very far downward look, which is quite nice. You will, of course, get a side-to-side tilt, although it is a bit stiff, so it's a little difficult to do. And of course, you will get a full 360 rotation, although again the joint is quite stiff, so it is a bit difficult to do. For the shoulders then, you have a bit of a shrugging joint here, so the entire shoulder can pop up or down as necessary. It can rotate independently of the arm, of course, to facilitate about a 135-degree side raise, which is fine. It's not super impressive, but it is more than adequate. The entire assembly, it's very similar to the Gundam the Master Grade Gundam 2.0, will kind of slide out from the torso to give a very nice full forward swing. You will, of course, get full 360 rotation in the upper bicep. The kind of very thick forearm adapter here will collide with the side skirt. You, of course, get a full double bend in the elbow here, showing off some very nice moving detail on the inside of the frame. The wrist is a ball joint inside a polycap socket, which will do ball joint things. There's of course an additional kind of joint in the wrist that allows for a very nice forward or backward tilt. Of course, the fingers don't articulate, being swappable finger-style hands. The thumb is on a ball joint with a point of articulation in the middle. For the torso then, like I mentioned earlier, there is no cockpit door mechanism, so you cannot open it up to show the pilot inside. For ab crunches then, forward crunch is going to be not very far, especially considering the very large kind of white extra armor piece here kind of getting in the way. You get a slight bend, but not anything super impressive. For upwards crunch, you do get quite a far back bend. You do get some very nice side-to-side tilt, and you will, of course, get a full 360-degree rotation, although it may be difficult to do with these large propeller tanks in the back, propellant tanks getting in the way. On the backpack, then, the propellant tanks are in polycap ball joints, which will do ball joint things. They are a bit loose in there, so they just be careful. They do tend to pop out very easily. The 360mm rocket cannon can, of course, extend outward, and then forward when you want to pose it firing. Just be careful that doesn't collide with the head antenna. In the waist then, as you would expect, the front skirts here are on separate ball joints, and will get a forward raise of a little under 90 degrees. Unfortunately, as you can see here, there are some hollow parts. The inner detail on the skirt armor is pretty lacking on the front skirts. The side skirts then are just on ball joints and will do ball joint things, and the back skirt is fixed in place. The beam saber racks on the back can kind of tilt, can kind of come outward a little bit. I'm not exactly sure why you would really want to articulate them, but you can if you want. For kicks then, you will get a forward kick of about 90 degrees. There is no hip drop mechanism, unfortunately. For side raises then, you need to kind of move the side skirt out of the way. There go the fingers. But you will get, a little under 90 degrees before the side skirts want to pop off. You will get a back kick of only about 30 degrees or so before the back skirt gets in the way, unfortunately. You do get rotation in the upper thigh, but it's not very far before it collides with the waist armor. For a knee bend, you will of course get a full double bend in the knee, although with the very thick lower leg armor that will collide with the thigh earlier into the bend than you would expect. There are some very nice piston details in here and a nice inner knee armor cap piece here, so that to give the impression that the inner frame is still protected even when it's doing a full knee bend. The thrusters then cannot rotate on the sides of the legs, although this kind of, I don't know if this is an exhaust unit or the actual thruster itself on the bottom, but this can rotate outward slightly if you need to. On the ankles then, the side armor can rotate out a little bit to facilitate movement, but just be careful, they do tend to pop out easily if you do it too much. The front armor can, of course, tilt forward if necessary. The entire foot is separated into a toe, middle, and back section. One thing I forgot to mention in the build is that the actual connection for these new blue armor pieces onto the bottom of the feet seem a little loose, especially on the heel. The left foot's heel kept popping out for me during assembly, which is a little annoying. You will, of course, get a full front foot tilt of, there it goes. You will, of course, get a full front tilt of about that far, a downward tilt of not very far, a decent side to side, and there it goes. Of course, for the toe bend, the entire kind of front can tilt up like so. It doesn't really tilt down, but the entire front of the foot can tilt down about that far. So overall, quite decent foot articulation. Just be careful. I don't know if it was a problem with mine or if it's a general overall problem with this kit, but the extra new pieces that go on the bottom of the feet do seem a bit loose and don't really fit on properly. Oh, another thing that to mention is that the water slide decals seemed a lot more fragile than they normally are, especially the large V-card decal on the back here and on the outside of the thrusters here seem to be very prone to ripping. They would start to slide off the sheet just fine, and then when they were like halfway on the part of it would like flake off or something. I haven't really seen that happen on a lot of these official Bandai waterslide decals, so I don't know if it was a problem with the one specifically for this kit or if it's the ones that came in the box that I got. But yeah, just let me know in the comments below if you've had an experience similar to that with this kit. Setting the Stormbringer PF into a bit of a spin, starting with the usual running and gunning pose. Of course, having the gym head on, I should have said the gym turbulence rather than the Stormbringer. But yeah, this is just to show off that despite being a full armor kit and definitely being a lot bulkier compared to a lot of other suits, it doesn't necessarily look the best on the ground. This is definitely, all of the angles and especially the propellant tanks on the back lend itself to being a lot better in the air, but on the ground it does look quite nice in a mobile pose like this, with the Gatling gun turret deployed at its side, firing the double barrel beam rifle upwards while running. It's all very dynamic and it looks very good with this kit. If you're going to have it on the ground, definitely have it doing a kind of a very mobile, very kinetic pose like this, to definitely, like, all of the kind of edges and angles and geometry are definitely kind of accentuated by the motion, which definitely makes it kind of more favorable for this kit for a pose compared to a lot of other kits, although I will note it was kind of difficult to get it in this pose. While this kit it should be fairly stable, being based on the ARC 78-2 2.0 and the Jim Sniper 2, both of which are very stable, very nice kits to pose like this. This kit kind of struggled with it. I attribute it to being the new feet parts that go on the bottom of the feet not fitting properly. They kept falling off while I was trying to pose it. It was all very, very annoying. So yeah, just keep that in mind if you have this kit and you're thinking of posing it. The bottoms of the feet are a bit fragile in terms of their connection to the actual frame. So moving on to a crouching pose, here it is firing the 360 custom rocket cannon like forward, while also directing the Gatling gun turret to fire forward. This is a decent pose. While I was talking earlier about the motion of this kit, it actually also looks quite nice in this kind of compacted defensive pose. Of course, the ARC 78-2 2.0 frame is doing a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of the articulation of this kit, but of course it can hit a kneeling pose fairly easily and very convincingly. A lot of kits look really awkward when it's in a kind of kneeling pose. Take a look at the Full Armor Gundam Blue that I did a video on a couple weeks back. That kit looked pretty bad kneeling. This kit actually looks pretty natural, and especially the bulk in the lower legs definitely makes it look a lot more planted, a lot more kind of hefty, which definitely adds to the kind of defensive nature of this pose. I think the 360mm rocket cannon could use a little extra length on the barrel. Again, the proportions on this kit are a little off. Like, the double barrel beam rifle is a lot longer and slimmer than it feels like it should be. The mega Gatling gun turret thing looks fine as a turret, but when you mount it on the arm, it seems a bit overly large. And the 360mm rocket cannon is a bit stubby. While it's officially called the 360mm rocket cannon, like, custom or whatever, it definitely feels like a downgrade from something like what we saw with the MSV Full Armor Gundam Blue. But yeah, again, in a kneeling pose, in a very kind of defensive pose, this kind of fully armored Gundam Stormbringer PF does look quite good, and it's definitely something I would consider having on the shelf. Also definitely saves on space, especially if you have smaller shelves. And getting into the air here with a kind of flying downward shooting and about to stab with the wrist-mounted beam saber emitter. This is a really, really cool pose, especially with the propellant tanks flying backwards, giving the impression that's flying forwards and downwards. Again, like, this shows off that this kit is kind of a generalist poser, but it definitely looks great when it's in motion like this. It differentiates itself from a lot of other full armor kits, like things like the Age 1 Titus, or the Full Armor Gundam Blue. It looks really, really good in the air. Again, all of these angles and details and things that are all kind of enhanced by the myriad surface details. Like, if you like panel lining, this kit is chock full of panel lining opportunities. Like, there are so many surface details on this kit, it's crazy. But all of that detail, and all of the kind of articulation and the propellant tanks and the legs and things like that, definitely gives a sense of motion that makes it look really, really good in the air. Again, I really like this downward stabbing pose. If I wasn't posing this kit kind of in an all-out firing pose on my shelf, I would definitely pick this pose. It is awesome. The articulation in the double barrel beam rifle for the scope being able to tilt side to side also adds a little bit to it, like, of course, like the Jim Turbulence here. It has having to focus through the scope to fire. While the visor on the head could be dropped down to kind of show this, I prefer it to only really be used in a all-out firing pose, as you'll see when I talk about it in the conclusion. But yeah, this is definitely a pose I would consider having this kit on in the shelf, and it looks a lot better in this pose than a lot of other full armor Gundams. And to be honest, I think the Jim Turbulence head looks better in this pose than the Gundam Stormbringer head would. So putting it into an all-out firing pose here with the visor down as we get into the conclusion here. In conclusion, the Gundam Stormbringer PF is definitely a kit that, in very Build Fighters fashion, has quite a bit of jank to it. Again, as I mentioned earlier, the decals were weirdly fragile, and a bunch of them kept ripping or flaking off in ways that a lot of the other Bandai decals simply don't. So I don't know if that was an error with my printing of the kit, or if it's a common problem for this kit in general. The new parts for the bottoms of the feet have a really hard time holding still. Every time I was trying to bend the foot, especially when I was trying to get into that kneeling pose, like the back part that goes on the heel and the front part covering the toes, definitely, like, they just kept falling off. Like, I don't know what the problem was. So yeah, again, I don't know if it's an issue specifically with my kit or if it's an issue with the mold in general, but yeah, I would definitely consider just plastic cementing those two parts onto the feet if you do build this kit. So the aesthetics are definitely interesting. It's a more angular, more over-the-top version of the MSV Full Armor Gundam, while retaining the kind of iconic parts of that kit being the 360mm rocket cannon on the back, as well as the double-barrel beam rifle as the kit's kind of main weapon. Of course, the main addition to this kit over the Stormbringer Fatal Ash is the large minigun that you see on the arm right here that can be deployed as a turret, as well as some additional kind of differently modeled armor parts for things like the torso and shoulders. All of that is for, I believe, an additional $8 or $9 over the Fatal Ash. When I was taking a look at that kit on the P-Bandit website, I think that was like $66, $67, something like that. It's definitely a much more reasonable price. But so while this kit also looks great, there's again a kind of major point of color inaccuracy in the bottom of the torso, with the kind of center of the white armor piece on the stomach needing to be in dark gray. Again, that's pretty easily fixed. And the articulation of this kit is also quite nice. I've neglected to mention this in the actual articulation section, but the articulation of the left arm while the minigun is mounted onto it is definitely limited, and the arm does struggle a bit to raise and hold up steady with the minigun on it. Definitely weighs it down a lot. But the kind of main elephant in the room with this kit is the price. $77 for what you get in the box, if you were to use all of it, would be completely reasonable, but you don't use all of it. Like, by my estimation, like, probably like 40% of the parts in this box are not used. They are excess parts, and if that $77 is justified by Bandai charging you for those parts, I can't really support that or recommend this kit. Definitely I would recommend the Fatal Ash over this kit. While the minigun is cool, I don't think it's worth that extra $8 to $9 that this kit costs over that one. For $67, $68, that kit's definitely a lot more reasonable, especially because the Stormbringer kind of lacks a lot of the gimmicks that you would expect from a master grade, like a movable, like a openable cockpit hatch, like armor layering onto a base kit. All of that is just kind of absent from this kit, which definitely kind of makes it feel like an in-between of something like an RE100 or a full mechanics and a master grade. So for that reason, the price being the main kind of factor here, if that's not an issue to you and you love this design, go for it. But if you're not in love with this design, and if you're kind of price conscious, I cannot really recommend this kit. So that was my review of the Master Grade Gundam Stormbringer PF. What did you think of this kit? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you like videos like these, please consider subscribing to my channel. If you like this video, give it a like. I know my upload schedule's been a little weird. There's been a bunch of real life stuff going on, and my April P Bandai shipment hasn't. They haven't sent me an email on when it's going to show up. So things like the Heavy Arms EW and the Tallgeese TV color version and the D Gundam First, I can't really cover because I don't have them and I don't know when I'm going to have them. So I'm kind of shuffling the order of kits in the future. I don't know exactly what they're going to be, but I will see you next time with my review of the high-grade Gundam Dantalian. I'll see you then.